Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this webinar about the Neighbourhood Connectivity Plan being developed for the Lambeth area. My name is Andrew Circum, and I'm a manager with the city's communications team. Before we get started, I wanted to let everyone know that we're recording this meeting, and a copy of it will be added to the project's webpage on Get Involved at getinvolved.london.ca/Lambeth. The presentation today will be followed by a question and answer period. To ask your question, we ask that you please use the Q&A feature on Zoom. This icon is located at the bottom of your screen and marked with the words Q&A. So if you have a question, feel free to type it in at any point during this webinar, and we'll answer questions at the end of the presentation. We'll also ensure that we keep communication streamlined and we don't miss anyone's questions. So we've disabled the chat function for the webinar. So please use the Q&A button. Your comments are also welcome, and we'll be collecting them in the Q&A tool for the project team to review after the presentation. If you have a question or comment, but are not comfortable asking it while this meeting's being recorded, or you wish to share personal information in your question about your address or a specific property, you're welcome to also contact us at ncp@london.ca after the meeting. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we're gathered today on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lunapaiwak, and Attawandaron. We acknowledge all the treaties that are specific to this area. The Two-Row Wampum Belt Treaty of the Haudenosaunee, Confederacy Silver Covenant Chain, the Beaver Hunting Grounds of the Haudenosaunee Nanfan Treaty of 1701, the McKee Treaty of 1790, the London Township Treaty of 1796, the Huron Tract Treaty of 1827 with the Anishinaabe, and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. This land continues to be home to diverse Indigenous people, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, who we recognize as contemporary stewards of the land and vital contributors to society. We hold all that is in the natural world in our highest esteem and give honor to the wonderment of all things within creation. The three Indigenous nations that are neighbors to London are the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation, who all continue to live as sovereign nations with individual and unique languages, cultures, and customs. This land acknowledgement is a first step towards reconciliation. Awareness means nothing without action. It's important that everyone takes the necessary steps towards decolonizing practices. We encourage everyone to be informed about the traditional lands, treaties, history, and cultures of the Indigenous people local to their region. Thank you. I'm now happy to introduce the project team on the call today. Joining us, we have Khulud Abdelhamid, Engineer in Training at the City of London, Daniel Hall, Manager of Active Transportation at the City, and Jenny Dan, Director of Construction and Infrastructure Services at the City of London. And with that, I'll next pass it over to Khulud for today's presentation. Over to you, Khulud.
Thank you, Andrew, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to begin with a little bit of background. So the city is committed to maintaining strong and healthy communities through safe and accessible infrastructure, such as sidewalks. This is something that has been emphasized over and over again in multiple policies and principles that Council has approved dating back to the early 2000s. A big one of those is the city's official plan, the London Plan, which indicates the sidewalks should be installed on both sides of most streets. And this is standard for many Ontario municipalities. So technically, all of the city's infrastructure project designs should include sidewalks on both sides of the street. However, as we've moved forward with trying to add sidewalks in this manner in recent years, this blanket approach has led to a lot of debate and inconsistency. And ultimately, we have not been able to successfully add many sidewalks in areas where they are needed. There has been a clear conflict between the goal of providing a safe and accessible mobility network and the desire to avoid neighborhood impacts to existing trees, parking, as well as driveways. So the debate essentially boils down to this. Many people recognize the benefits or need for sidewalks and better connectivity in their neighborhoods, and for many reasons listed here. We know that sidewalks are great for people with kids, people with mobility challenges, and that sidewalks can make walking a lot more comfortable. However, we also know that residents have concerns around potential impacts to trees, parking, and driveways. And for some residents, they believe that sidewalks are not needed because they feel traffic volumes are low, or because they feel that people who live nearby are comfortable on the road and don't want sidewalks. Right here, we have a map of the City of London with orange lines indicating where sidewalks exist today. You can see that in older areas of the city, such as in the downtown area Old North, Old South, and Old East, there are a lot of sidewalks. As we begin moving outwards from the core, we have lots of areas where the pedestrian network is incomplete, as you can see from the lack of orange sidewalk lines. Between the 1950s and the 80s, many neighborhoods were built in London with some or no sidewalks at all. And as you can see, there are about 20 of these areas highlighted by the red boundary lines. The gray areas indicate, or the 6 gray areas indicate that they have already been completed for neighborhood connectivity plans. And the teal is the Lambeth area that we are discussing today. So right now we are in a position where there are definitely neighborhoods that have gaps in connectivity. And yet, as we've been working to implement sidewalks in various communities, what we're hearing is that a broad brush approach is not working. Our goal is to add sidewalks, and yet we ultimately have not been successful in trying to add them in some situations in recent years. Londoners clearly want us to be more deliberate when it comes to how we implement sidewalks. So that's why we're having these discussions. There is a need to improve connectivity, and we need to work with residents and community members to decide where sidewalks make the most sense. So instead of looking at sidewalks on a street by street basis, we're now going to be reviewing all streets in a neighborhood together. This will give us the ability to identify the most strategic sidewalk connections to fill in any gaps and improve connectivity in the neighborhood overall. So how do we do this? We develop each neighborhood connectivity plan, and we will be looking at 3 inputs: community feedback, City of London information and policies, as well as input from various outside agencies and partners. Feedback from community members like yourselves is a critical piece, and we will be seeking input from the local residents during upcoming in-person and online public meetings. This will help shape our understanding of how the neighborhood functions, what works and what doesn't. We'll also consider information that the city has. This will include things like requests for traffic calming measures, resident requests for new sidewalks, and traffic and pedestrian volume data. We will also be talking to various local groups, agencies, and experts to pull other information together to inform the plan. This will include talking to local schools and school bus providers to understand travel patterns and hotspots. It will also include working with the LTC, the London Transit Commissionaries, to gather data on local bus stops and volumes, and getting information from the police regarding safety, collisions, and traffic volumes. With input from all 3 of these areas, the goal is to develop a plan that is holistic and considers the needs of the entire community from a 360-degree perspective. Right, so there are 2 stages that we're going to be having sidewalk conversations moving forward. Stage 1 is where we are now. This is where we're looking at sidewalks from a neighborhood perspective. We're going to be consulting with the community and other city divisions to try to understand where sidewalks might make the most sense within your neighborhood. We're going to help, or you're going to help us establish key community amenities and destinations and tell us how you use the neighborhood now versus how you would like to use it. Once we've completed our information gathering, we will make recommendations to council about where sidewalks should be prioritized in your neighborhood. Our recommendations will come in from a neighborhood connectivity plan. Council will review that plan and make a decision as to whether it will move forward as the blueprint or where to put sidewalks in the Lambeth community. Then comes the street level conversation, which will happen down the road. This is when staff will come back to the specific streets where sidewalks have been recommended to consult with those residents. At that point, we will be focused on finding the best fit for the street and helping residents understand the design considerations that can mitigate impacts of adding new sidewalks. To assist residents in deciding on a sidewalk design for the street, city staff will consider factors such as trees and vegetation, existing driveways, on-street parking, emergency vehicle access, winter road maintenance, and street lighting. But for now, we are in stage 1, where we're trying to understand as much as we can about the neighborhood in order to help develop a plan for better connectivity. The street level conversation will be a separate, very focused stage at a later date. So this is the Lambeth neighborhood. As you can see on this slide, there are large gaps in the pedestrian network. As a reminder, existing sidewalks are indicated in orange on the slide and pathways are shown in dark green. The goal of us looking at connectivity at a neighborhood level is really to analyze the whole network as opposed to just looking at a certain street and saying we need a sidewalk here. With your help, we can get a better sense of the travel patterns and needs to help us determine where we should add sidewalks in a way that adds value and makes the whole area better connected. So if your street is identified as needing a sidewalk in the neighborhood connectivity plan, there will be additional consultation around the best placement for the sidewalk in stage 2. City staff will be looking at your street in a much more detailed way to help determine the best fit for a sidewalk on your street. We will be considering factors such as trees and vegetation, existing driveways, on-street parking, emergency vehicle accesses, winter road maintenance, and street lighting to develop design options for a sidewalk for your street. We will be considering how we can minimize or mitigate some of the impacts for adding a new sidewalk. For example, we can look at where the sidewalk is located, whether there will be grass between the sidewalk and the road, etc. Everyone who lives on the street will have an opportunity to provide feedback on our proposed options in order to help us refine the designs so we can add the sidewalk in a way that makes the most sense for the street. In terms of timing, if your street is identified as a place where sidewalks should be added, we will aim to have the sidewalk coincide with other road work that is planned or through a standalone project that will depend on how the street is prioritized relative to other streets requiring sidewalks. So for example, if the city is going to repaving the road or fixing underground infrastructure on a street that has been designated for a sidewalk, we would try to time those works together to minimize disruption for the residents. But before any sidewalks are installed, you will definitely hear from the city and have an opportunity to participate in your street level consultation. This slide was only about stage 2, which comes after the neighborhood connectivity plan is completed. So let's get back to stage 1 and discuss how you can help develop the plan. Specifically, here's what we're hoping to achieve. We need to know what the key destinations are in your community. This could be everything from schools to places of worship to parks and trails or shops. We also want to get a sense of how you're currently using the neighborhood when it comes to walking and whether there are different ways you would like to use it or areas that could be improved in the future. So this is how you can share your feedback. There are multiple ways for you to share your input, your comments, and feedback during our consultation period until July 4th. You can visit our project webpage by either scanning the QR code at the top right corner of the screen or by searching getinvolved.london.ca/Lambeth, where you can learn about the project, fill out our survey, or by using our interactive map to identify locations and add comments. You can contact the project team directly at ncp@london.ca. And now I will pass it back to Andrew to start our Q&A session.
Thanks, Khulud. Yes, so please use the Q&A function of Zoom to submit any comments or questions, and we're happy to answer any questions today on the call. I also want to mention that on that Get Involved webpage, you can also subscribe for email updates. So as this consultation and the plan continues over the next several months, you can receive email updates about progress and further engagement opportunities. So please visit getinvolved.london.ca/Lambeth and subscribe for email updates, as well as leave any additional feedback you might have. I see a few comments have come in, which are much appreciated. Thank you for sharing comments, and these will all be shared with the project team afterwards. If there are any questions, we're happy to help answer any questions as well. Just give it a few more seconds to see if any further questions come in. Again, thank you for the comments that are coming in. We'll collect those as part of the consultation. Well, thank you, Khulud, and thank you, Jenny and Daniel, for being on the call today. We have a few comments that have come in that will add to the public engagement, and we'll be sure to review those after this meeting. Again, thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar, and for those who might have attended the public meeting earlier this week at Lambeth Public School. Again, the questions that we're asking are at getinvolved.london.ca/Lambeth. Please continue to share your feedback with us through this webpage and subscribe for email updates moving forward. With that, we'll end the webinar. A recording will be posted on the webpage shortly, and we look forward to continue to engage with you over the next several months. Thanks, everybody.